Hello and welcome to Indiepocalypse Radio. I am your host, Andrew. Welcome to the number one radio station and home of the unmarketable, which is a thing I kind of like. Is it vain to say that to like something that I said if I forgot that I said it, and then I come to it is referred to me back much later and I go, that is very clever. Because I think things need people like catchphrases, and I need to land on one because I can't play around looking for something like that because people, listen folks, we don't do gimmick infringement on this show. It's well established, but catchphrases are right, but I draw the line that I will never come up with a cute name for people. I feel like that's real hard in the sand and not going to happen. But what is going to happen is we're here going to talk to our very first guest on the show. Now, what's going to happen is I'm going to remember to say the show's live because I always forget that part. We're going to speak to our very first guest after I had just done that and did not stall to remember what issue you were in with Amber from part of Tech Stream 2 for issue 8 of Indiepocalypse. Hello, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm good, except it's 1 a.m. That part's less good, but...
Yes, that is not an ideal time of the day. Maybe you could be on a beautiful midday show one of these days, like maybe 6 or 7 o'clock even. But it's not 6 or 7 o'clock at the moment. It's 1 a.m. and we're just going to have to deal with it. Well, I'm not going to have to deal with it. I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. But anyway, how you doing? Wait, I just asked you that. You're tired, or?
I drank a coffee. I'm good. I'm filled with power and energy.
Okay. Now, does that work for you when your body knows you want to sleep to drink a coffee?
See, I don't ever drink coffee. Today I made an exception.
Oh, okay. Well, as someone who walks that same road, I at one point did that because I didn't sleep really. And then I had to go to work, and I was like, I'll just drink coffee. And then I felt sick and jittery.
I see. So
well,
we'll see what happens.
Luckily, you're going to sleep and not going to work an 8-hour shift, so I think you'll be fine.
Shall see. Perhaps I will simply faint in the middle of this show.
If you do faint, could you faint on your keyboard, and then make sure you at some point roll to an enter key so that I know, I fainted, you fainted, and it all works out.
Yeah. I can also have like a dead man switch. If I don't press it every 30 seconds, it's
yes.
gonna play a really loud white noise.
Exactly. Perfect. And then I will, of course, edit out your dead man switch later.
Yeah, of course.
This top shelf edited podcast. Speaking of editing, as an editor of an indie game anthology, I always got to know and ask contributors, how did you hear about Indiepocalypse?
So I don't remember.
Oh no.
I'll answer that. Hi.
Well, you can answer that later. What is your segment?
Oh, it's mine. I'm so sorry.
Barging in last minute here, but hello. This is a preview for later segments, but for now, our guest is going to wait their turn.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. All right. Anyway, Amber, you were saying that you weren't familiar.
Just somehow entered my peripheral vision. I don't exactly know when or where I found out about its existence, but it must have been a while ago at this point.
Yes, if issue 18, that would have been, what's it? That's 9 months ago, give or take.
God, was it really?
A whole baby could have been created and then birthed within that time. A whole human life.
Probably many have. They'll be remembered.
I can't wait when I meet people at events and everyone's talking about, hey, are there Indiepocalypse production babies? Which is to say, I heard about it and then I had a baby within that time.
I mean, yeah, the issue was probably so good. Many people just played and were like, all right, this is it. I got to celebrate,
I feel like I have this urge to create.
Yeah, exactly. It's inspiration.
I mean, it's not making a child like as indie as you can get. I mean, I guess unless you name your child like Dovahkiin, I guess that's not too indie. Didn't they have that contest at some point?
There was a contest named a child Dovahkiin.
I thought there was. Maybe I'm wrong.
Something like that. Wait.
Maybe nerds just do it anyway because they're weird nerds and they name their kids. Listen, give it enough time, especially now that Final Fantasy VII Remake has come out and that we'll have a new wave of Sephiroth. Eventually, Sephiroth will just be a normal name for a child that we can all live with. And you know what? Names can be anything, as it turns out. They're simply collections of letters that we use to refer to one another. But that aside, I have a question from a guest, a previous guest even. And that question is, after I navigate, what is your favorite beer?
My favorite beer.
Yes, if you have one.
Beer tastes awful.
Okay, well.
No, I don't drink beer very much. It's not. I have a feud with anything carbonated. It makes my tummy very upset.
Oh, see, the alternative. I will sometimes go to like, a grocery store kombucha because I like the carbonation. I like the way it makes my tummy go. Like I feel like it clears it out,
Yeah.
Well,
I do enjoy the alcohols, just not beer specifically.
Okay, so what is your go-to then alcohol, non-beer category?
Non-beer category. I suppose the closest beer analog would be cider. I enjoy a glass of cider sometimes.
All right. And those, I have been tricked before by those, let's call them, non-beer tasting alcoholic beverages, and that I was like, this thing tastes like pumpkin. I'm just going to drink it.
Yep.
Then it's like, wait a minute. Somebody spiked my pumpkin. I had a very... I've actually had a very similar effect with like coffee where, in my house there's been, those like quarts of like, hey, it's caramel macchiato coffee, but you buy it at a grocery store and it's in a quart.
Ah, yes, the thing I'm drinking right now.
Yes. I was like, I enjoy caramel, so when we've had those before, like I'll just have one a day, like a couple days, and it runs out, or I get sick of drinking it, like the fun is worn off. Then I'm like, why am I so exhausted now? Because I trained my body to absorb the caffeine, and then it's like, where'd it go? Where'd my stimulant drug go? I was like, sorry, bro, I just wanted the caramel. What flavor have you got there?
Just says iced macchiato, deliciously creamy.
Okay. How deliciously creamy would you say it is?
It is creamy indeed. Is it delicious? Well, I don't really like coffee, you see. I'm just doing this out of necessity.
Yes, no, I've never really been a fan of coffee either. I granted, like my first experiences with coffee were like free coffee that was offered at the furniture store. So maybe that's not like the ideal way to drink coffee, but I don't know. I don't need the caffeine. But anyway, this isn't coffee talk, I guess. Or maybe it is. No, because none of us drink coffee. What are you going to talk about? I don't like the taste of it. Sometimes I think I see cream in the fridge, and I was like, that's cream. What if I should just drink the cream? Like, that's irresponsible. It seems irresponsible.
But isn't that the most indie thing to do? Just chug a carton of cream.
Yes, but I've also looked at the nutrition facts on that, and it's like, oh, it's only 80 calories per serving. Oh, this tiny little bottle has 50 servings in it. Okay.
That just means, just drink a carton of cream in the morning. Don't gotta eat for the rest of the day. Right?
So, you're right. You're not wrong. I don't know if it's like balanced enough. I've thought about Soylent before. I don't know if they're still doing it. But some days it'd be nice to just drink something and not have to worry about eating all day.
Dream.
But also I do like to eat as well. So it's kind of, I want every part of the world and I can't get any of it. But, okay, so, listen, we're all very tired of, let's call it, being locked in our houses, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But what was the first, I guess, have you had any have you done any ordering out or gone out or like had food prepared for you by somebody else that you paid them for?
Oh, very often.
Okay. What was because I feel like there was this window, at least for me, there's this window when like things were closed, but also nobody had got their delivery set up. So maybe you didn't have that.
Not really. Things ran pretty smoothly here.
Well,
I feel like most people ordered anyway.
perfect.
I live in the Netherlands, for the record.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a lot of just bike delivery people.
Oh, well, perfect then. I had not that luxury. Oh, I guess I could have ordered Domino's, but nothing stops the Domino's train. Nothing stops Mr. Domino's, as they say, classically.
There's a Mr. Domino's?
No. Are you not familiar with Mr. Domino and the fact that nobody can stop him?
No, never.
Oh, so Mr. Domino is a PlayStation 1 game. It's like a puzzle game, and the game is called You Can't Stop Mr. Domino. No one can stop Mr. Domino. Mr. Domino is unable to be stopped.
This thing.
He's like
okay, yeah.
No one can stop Mr. Domino. He's like a little fun domino. He's got a little cowlick. He walks on a stage.
Oh.
And you can't stop him. Or I don't know if you can stop him, it might be actually more of a plea. Like, no one can stop Mr. Domino. Please help us. Somebody needs to.
Just look at his little grin. He's just running around knowing that he can't be stopped. He's not a care of the world.
Where's my Mr. Domino? I'm waiting for the Sony press conference so they bring back Mr. Domino.
I think it's the hero we need in these times.
He really
we need
is.
His confidence to inspire us.
Yeah. I'm but a playing piece, but I can go anywhere. Nothing can... a long play, it's only 20 minutes. Wow, it's really short. Sorry, I'm reading about the director of... No, sorry, that's the composer. That's why, because I was like, wow, he did a lot of radio and advertising? But no, Art Dink made it. That was the composer. Anyway, I'm not going to read the Art Dink Wikipedia page. We're not at that period of the show where I read Art Dink's Wikipedia page. So PS1s are they're coming back into style, or they've really, I would say PS1 has really been back in style for quite some time, or at least the imagined aesthetic of it, whether it's perfectly adherent is irrelevant really. It's more about creating the feeling, which is all that really matters. Which is to say, what's your experience with the PlayStation 1?
Oh, I am unfortunately too young to have experienced that.
Oh, no.
No, born in the year 2000, 6 years too late. That said,
Yeah.
I was always a generation behind when it came to consoles, right? When the PS3 came out, we got a PS2.
Yeah, I'm now officially well behind. I've just kind of stopped buying consoles. And
that's reasonable.
it seems fine, really.
I feel they just kind of stopped being interesting, you know?
Yeah,
all blending to the same like average console.
Right, right. I mean, isn't that that's kind of like the ideal though? Is that there just becomes like game boxes, right? Kind of like there are DVD or Blu-ray players. Sorry, my mistake. Forgive me. There are Blu-ray players, and I can just buy like a Toshiba, but it's not like I gotta buy the. I can only play certain Blu-rays on the Toshiba. I have to get those ones. I want those Samsung exclusive movies.
It's weird. I never actually thought about it this way, even though it seems kind of a comparison.
Yeah, it's always been a very weird thing, and I hope we move. Listen, okay, what was that stupid console that nobody liked?
What, the 3DO?
No, the other one.
Philips CDI?
No, a little newer. It was basically a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, Ouya.
Oh yes, Ouya, right. Ouya had the right idea, maybe. Basically, it's just a PC that plays things.
For sure it was like an Android.
Yeah, that was an Android, but
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. What if consoles are just PCs that plays things and we didn't have to worry about it?
Just get a PC at that point.
I do, yeah, but I gotta upgrade the. Listen, they need to stop making video games look better. I don't care anymore.
That's like the kind of curse. It's like you find a graphics card and then you just keep playing like, Monster Train.
Yes, right. Or you just keep loading up RetroArch and you're like, I should play through all these games I bought when I was younger. Emulated, of course, because who has the patience to dig out a PlayStation and hope it works? And like, do I have memory cards that? Do I have to buy a memory card? Do I have to find the right memory card? And whole ordeal. But fortunately, we're past those days. Speaking of PS2s, if anyone's out there has a PS2 that they're willing to donate or sell me on the cheap, at this point I'm looking to invest in a PS2 to mail around along with my RPG Maker stuff, because I feel like that would really crack open wide the number of people who can participate, because that also means you don't have to worry about things like region locking, because like PAL is a whole other thing.
That's one thing I definitely don't miss.
No, I modded my PS2 so I could play imports and also pirated games.
But that's legal.
Don't tell Sony that
No.
I downloaded ISOs of the Japan only Cowboy Bebop game, and I was like, this game is bad. I'm not gonna play it anymore.
That's the thing that exists.
Listen, they didn't have demos back then that I could just download. Do they still have demos? I remember back in my headier, more console heavy days, like all Xbox games used to have demos, and that was very cool. Do they still do that? I don't know anymore.
I see demos from time to time, but they're usually like indie games.
Right. There used to be like, I feel like it was almost like a mandate, but
Yeah, every game had a demo. But not anymore.
no, but it's a very interesting thing. It's like, I guess it doesn't matter because you don't. It's all moving towards free to play and live games, and just like no one has to worry about. They don't want to have to patch their demos.
There are some really good demos as well. I grew up playing a lot of the Spelunky HD demo.
Okay. Right. Yeah. No.
Because the multiplayer mode was pretty much just fully unlocked. You just limited how many maps you had.
Yeah. We had a Pizza Hut demo disc that saw a lot of play because we are never going to buy Freedom Force or whatever. But it's fun to play the first level of it sometimes. Really, like, people should put out demo discs again.
I mean, when I was a kid, I could barely even get past the first level, right? So why buy the game if I can just play the demo?
Yeah. Do they? I know, like, Haunted PS1 is like structured as a demo disc, like aesthetically speaking. But are there actually any like kind of grassroots demo discs coming up?
No idea.
I feel like somebody, well, maybe when like there are trade and like convention and like events once again, people can be like, hey, let's crack into the like. What if you go to someone's booth and they just have like a DVD and it has like demos on it, and it's like, what's this demo disc? And it's like, oh, this is, this indie collective demo disc. I think there needs to be more indie collectives also.
Yeah.
But to kind of like, anyway, that's what everyone does. You make collectives, you make like little sub communities that turn to publishers that turn into like things with cultural power. It's the long, slow process of getting recognized that each medium seems like it needs to have to reinvent when it can't just look sideways and be like, oh, somebody else already did all of the work for us. But who knows how to solve that problem. Speaking of solving problems, Amber, now that we are in the height of speculative video game season, and we are also approaching the end of our time here, what is the game that you least want to see announced?
That I least want to see announced?
Yes. Something that you just like don't want to be in the world.
I don't want to be in the world. That is such a good question. Games I don't want to see announced. Something that the world really doesn't need right now.
Yes, something like.
I mean, I wish I could say something funny, but honestly, I'm just tired of military shooters.
Okay. Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but I feel like there's probably already been 6 of them announced. But just like wipe the slate. Don't need any more of them.
Like, just go back in time a few days.
Okay, I will. First thing I would do with my time machine that I have handy is to.
Yeah, please. No,
I don't use it very often because time travel seems so complicated that I just rather not bother with it.
I saw the Battlefield 2042 trailer.
Okay, that's.
It's like, I kid you not, there's like a quad bike, right? The dude drives it off the rooftop into a helicopter, causing a massive explosion. And people loved it, apparently, judging by the comment section.
Yeah. No.
It's like, that's not... These are the same people who are complaining about realism when, a person had a prosthetic arm in Battlefield 5 trailer.
Right. Listen, video games are a cavalcade of nonstop hypocrisy, and you can't escape it. I often feel that people who are like, even people who are just like, well, I love art and I'm ultra well read, but then it's like, well, video games are trash though, so it doesn't matter. That part of my brain shuts off for that.
Yeah.
Then there's also the people who are like, well, I just want to complain about the thing that I like for the reasons you know why I'm complaining about, but I'm going to pretend that it's about realism. Not that I'm a racist, which is the real reason, but let's all pretend it's about fantasy realism or some such bullshit. But anyhow, Amber, great to talk to you.
Thanks for having me on.
Maybe there will be a future show where I know ahead of time that it's 1 o'clock where you are. 1 o'clock, the bad 1 o'clock that is. The 1 o'clock on military time.
Yes.
And
for the AM kind.
Yes. The anti-meridian. And we will have you on the post-meridian someday. But until then, Thank you for being here. Do you want to stay the whole way to the group segment, or would you just like to head off and go to bed?
I'd love to pass out right now, but I feel that out of respect, I'm going to have to stay at least a bit.
No, don't worry about it, because it's like an hour and a half away. So the reason I ask is, Amber, have you got anything to plug for the audience on your way out?
Haven't done anything except Take Stream 2 that's been out at least so far, so I guess that.
Perfect. And games don't get bad when they get older, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And you've got, I hear you have you're working on something new that may be coming out next month or the month after that, maybe?
Oh, yeah, you hear? Yeah, it's true, indeed.
Yeah.
There might indeed be a thing that I'm working on.
Yes.
That may come out, so look out for that.
Yes, keep an eye out. If you go to if you dig through all the different Indiepocalypse social medias, or rather the Pizza Prank social medias, you might actually find what I'm referring to. It's now explicitly somewhere on the internet because the cover artist was like, "Can I post this on my socials?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." I don't care.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it's a secret so far or not.
It was, but because I didn't know if it was going to come together, but now I feel like it's really like coming together. I'm like, oh, it's actually a thing. And now I feel like it's less secret, but I don't want to talk about it during E3 time because I like it. I don't want people to.
I want to associate it with E3.
Right, or like to be like, oh, it's not helicopters or people petting dogs. And I'm like, you can all run hell. We make real video games. Indiepocalypse does not live on the military shooter to wholesome game dichotomy. We are whatever. Anyway, thank you for being here. I'm going to stop rambling and I'm going to go to break and see you all in 2 minutes and 44 seconds, give or take. Goodbye.
See ya.
It was Beta Funk by. It says maybe Crystal Lee is in English. Can I do this off the top of my head? I can't read katakana that effectively to do this, but maybe it's whatever. You folks, I can't read katakana that quickly to translate that off the top of my head. But anyway, the album's Market World, that'll get you half of the way there. We are here with guest number 2, Yona. Yona, how you doing? Who you may you may know from issue 17 of Indiepocalypse, the most recent issue. Wait, no, did I get that right? Are there 18 issues? I'm so lost. Hello, everyone. Yona's here. You made the game.
Hi, I'm Yona.
You made the game called In Every Generation.
I did, and it was in Indiepocalypse, one of the issues. I think it's number 16.
I think it
That's
is.
what it says in my emails.
It is 16, yes. It was in 16. Why did I write 17? I'm like, no, 17 is... Listen, when you work on 3 issues at once, you get lost in it all. Anyhow.
16 is a lot of issues. It's a lot to keep track of.
16.
I personally have more than 16 issues personally, just within myself.
Okay. Yeah, I try to keep them at a minimum. I try to work in only 3 at a time to maintain sanity. But
it's like the 99 problems, 99 issues.
Yes, I have 99 problems, and let me tell you, all of them are all the ones you can imagine are included. None are exempt. Speaking of having problems, how are you doing?
I'm actually doing great.
Well, perfect.
I'm so happy to be on here. I wasn't able to come on the last time that you were doing this, so I'm glad that I can actually come in this time and we can chat.
Yes, no, I'm glad to have you. This show is nothing if not accommodating, or aims to be accommodating. Now,
and I'm sorry about coming on,
barging in, storming in hot.
I didn't realize that it was sort of one person at a time, because I did come in a little bit late, and so you asked a question, and I thought it was sort of a question for the table.
Speaking of the table, it's a lot harder, you see, when there's no physical table and we're all just looking at our computer screens or our phones.
It is. And, one of the things that I try to do in some of my games is bridge that, like, so that you don't just feel like you're staring into the computer, your eyes glazing over, scrolling through a million things or playing whatever thing to like numb yourself. Like I try to make games that feel like the opposite of numbing. Look,
Yes.
Nothing wrong with numbing. Sometimes you need it. Like,
Yeah.
I need to go to the dentist soon, and I really hope that I can feel numb during that.
Right. Yes. Quite literally numb.
Right. But no, I'm trying to counteract some of that because sometimes it can be a bit much.
Yes. Definitely it can be, especially if you're like, for people who are just like unfamiliar with like playing games, because for people who are unaware, when we're talking about games, we're talking about tabletop games that you take a whole crew, you sit them in chairs, you've got a table in between a lot of you.
Yep. And yeah, unlike single player games, computer games, console games, tabletop games are social.
Yes.
And not that you can't have social games like MMORPGs can be very social. And there's you can play socially on a console as well.
Yeah.
But role-playing games are powered by people, and tabletop games. So unlike a console game or a computer game where the computer is the game engine,
yeah,
in a role-playing game, in a tabletop game, your fellow players are the game engine. You're creating the game together.
Or in some cases, the dice are the game engine. In some few,
the dice are definitely a part of it.
Yeah.
Or the cards, or the minis, or what other tools you have at the table. But if there isn't a person there telling you what to do, everything stops.
Right. Have you ever played any minis-centric games?
The only game that I've played with minis is Dungeons and Dragons. I've played both 3.5 edition and 5th edition. I haven't played any of the like Warhammer or any of those traditional war games.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, a lot of things with those tactile elements are just, you can't get into them anymore.
No.
Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to go to a game store or meet up with people in real life and do that. So the games that I have been doing since the pandemic started have been in this weird in-between space where even though they're physical games, they're not computer games, you're doing a lot of it over the computer, over a Discord voice chat or over a Zoom call.
Well, perfect. Yes, I've had weekly game sessions basically since before COVID. So for me, no adjustment. We got the ship is running same as usual. Same as
you had like online tabletop games with a virtual tabletop.
I mean, the virtual tabletop in Roll20 is used for doodling. We haven't played like games in which we respect the physical space in a very long time. Even if the game offers like movement rules or whatever, it's like
sometimes you're playing a game across a physical tabletop and people are using the physical tabletop just for doodling.
That's also what my friend got, one of those like fancy tables that you open it up and there's like a grid inside. And like one of those whiteboard grids, and we use it for doodling. Mostly. Occasionally.
Well, you know what? Sorry, finish what you're saying.
I was saying occasionally just draw the layout of a location. But
something that people forget, and I think this is true of every kind of game, from card games to computer games to role-playing games, is sometimes people get so into them that they forget that it's for fun, that it's supposed to be fun. people will get so serious about whatever game it is that has become part of their life, that sometimes like the fun will just get lost in the mix. And
Yes.
if you just laugh with your friends and doodle, like maybe something's missing. Maybe you want to go back to that and find a way to get back that fun, which is the original reason why we play games.
Yes, sometimes you get far too into it. Sometimes your warlock dies, and that's the end of your life.
Yeah. Games can make you feel emotional. And the cool thing about role-playing games is that they harness that. So, when I get emotional if I'm playing poker, that's outside of the mechanics of the game.
Right.
But in a storytelling game, like if you're playing Fate or Powered by the Apocalypse, like one of the Powered by the Apocalypse games, you're telling a story at the table, and the fact that your warlock dies, let's say, and that makes you really emotional, is going to influence where the story goes next.
Yes, you have sorry, you have to find, like, exactly, you need to sort of like find your joy in it, which also means that sometimes you never get invested in it. It's just a real fuck around session.
And whether you're just fucking around or whether you're getting really emotional, it's cool that unlike some other games, the goal of a role-playing session is a little bit more open-ended.
Right.
If you're playing chess, according to the standard rules, the objective is to capture the other side's king, and that's the whole game. But when you're playing a role-playing game, especially one that might go on for several sessions, some people play in a single campaign for years, you have detours that are entirely player-driven.
Yeah.
So we decide to collectively what our goals are. And sometimes the DM takes the dungeon master or the game master takes a larger role in that, and sometimes it's more across the whole table. But it's nothing like in chess, where the second you sit down, the game itself tells you the goal.
Right.
Dungeons and Dragons, even if you're working from modules, the player's guide and dungeon master's guide don't tell you the goal. Only the adventure modules tell you the goal of the adventure, but those adventures are not the only way to do it. There's 100 different adventures you can play within Dungeons and Dragons versus checkers or chess, where it's always the same goal.
Right.
And in role-playing games, every adventure has all sorts of different goals, and sometimes players will bring their own goals, and sometimes your warlock dies and now the whole party is going to avenge the warlock's death, and that wasn't part of the goals originally, and it can go off in every direction, and that's something really fun and really powerful.
Yeah, you can spin your base. You can, from like a traditional storytelling perspective, you can just have a lot of what is people erroneously refer to as filler, where it's, you have a goal, but you're like, well, what if we just spent a long time fixing a car or something?
Well, it's like the epitome with Link, and you're just smashing pots and going on side quests to catch chickens.
Yeah,
because again, games are supposed to be fun. So if you're having fun smashing those pots, go smash those pots.
Yeah, you have to find. It's about sort of finding whatever objectives you're looking for, and games are obviously, they give you like a guide. Like, well, plenty of games like, well, this is what we need. We're kind of like, we're looking to evoke this idea we're looking to get across. But at the end, it's just like, well, I read the rules, and the rules no longer can enforce themselves. They're a PDF. What is a PDF going to do to me?
Yeah, it goes back to the game engine is other people.
Yeah.
So it is based on the social norms of your table, whether that's people you just met in a random Facebook group or Discord group or game store or people that you've known your whole life. The game engine is the other people at your table.
Yes, that is. I've heard that it's doable, but I still can't imagine playing role-playing games with strangers. It seems like too long an experience to spend with people that I don't know. With like
I've done it a few times, and by the end of the game, you don't feel like you're strangers anymore.
Right. I think I worry about nerds who are not funny.
Well, you know what? You have to get that buy-in at the very beginning of what the theme and genre of the game is. So I'm playing in a game which is all about superheroes, and we're using the Masks system, which is powered by the Apocalypse. If anybody doesn't know, like, role-playing games, I might be just talking in gibberish for you.
Whatever. They have the internet. They're watching the show. They can look it up.
You can Google it. So we're playing a role-playing game about superheroes, and we had what's called a session 0. So before we go in to play the game and tell the story, because story and game are really hand in hand in role-playing games, we talk at the table about, what kind of thing are we going for? And you get a sense, who's the funny player and who's the more serious, wants to like go forward with the quest and make sure that you have a good balance. So that chemistry is so important. Right,
because that's usually a finely honed dynamic among your group, which I know I could answer that question for my groups, which person is which role, because everyone just slides into it naturally. But
yeah, totally.
Speaking of session 0, let's talk about our Indiepocalypse session 0, as our session 2 of this radio show is coming to a close. Let's talk about session 0 of Indiepocalypse, which is to say, to put a button on it all, how did you hear about Indiepocalypse?
How did I hear about Indiepocalypse? So I started making games through the progression. It was a gateway drug. I started as a player, and then I became a game master where I was running the role-playing games. And then I was diving into the world of homebrew, where you don't just follow a little adventure guide, but you make up your own adventure. You maybe even make up your own monsters, your own terrain. Next thing you know, you're building, a whole empire to set your world. And it's very good for people who are into creative writing and improv, because you get to build your own Middle Earth or Westeros or, whatever is your jam. And it's not just, obviously, medieval Europe. Like, lots of people love to set things in cyberpunk worlds or superhero worlds or space. The limits are only your imagination. So then when I was running my own games, that's when I started looking around at some other systems and homebrewing the rules and maybe tweaking this rule, maybe tweaking that rule. And then eventually I was coming up with some games that didn't fit any of the systems that I could find on the internet, but I had read and played enough systems that I could think about the mechanics that I liked from different systems and put them together into sort of a Franken system. And then one of those games that I made was a Passover RPG, where you play and tell the story of the Jews escaping Egypt from the Book of Exodus. And you do that through the Jewish ritual of a Seder. I'm Jewish myself. And so I was really inspired to combine the way that we tell the story at a Seder table with the way that we tell stories at a tabletop as game players.
Right.
And I put that game out on itch. And then while I was on itch, I saw that there's all these game jams that you can submit things to. So I submitted it to Indiepocalypse, and I guess you all liked it. So here I am.
Perfect. And I gotta emphasize, when we say you all around these parts, I am all of us. This is a solo operation, but people keep thinking it's not, so I have to correct it every time I hear it. This is just something I do entirely by myself. Anyway.
Wow, that's even more impressive then. And thank you for all the work that you do. Oh my goodness.
It's a certain quantity of work that takes quite a while sometimes. But this is the beginning of the month. I am wild and free. I can do whatever I want because I set up all sorts of things in the future so I hate working, so I plan ahead. Anyway, thank you for being here, Yana. We're going to go to break. Thank you for having me. And then we'll be back with our next guest. I'll see you all on the other side of 258. Goodbye.
Bye.
Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Best Coast, When I'm With You. We are here with our next guest, who you may know from issue 12 of Indiepocalypse with Extended Care Unit Room 19B and 4 Stories COVID. It is Ambrosio. Ambrosio, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Unlike the 1 o'clock people, it's like 4 in the afternoon here. So
what a dream.
Yeah, I'm perfectly energized. I'm all good. I've had my coffee. I got my water. Yeah.
Yeah, I've ate a pizza. I have a water. I am living my best life as well.
What type of pizza?
It was a frozen pizza that was buffalo chicken styled.
That sounds actually really good.
It was pretty. It was pretty good as far as frozen pizzas. Listen, I want to get out into the world again and order all sorts of pizzas and eat them on my bed in my hotel room. Get crumbs everywhere.
Where I am, our COVID cases are really, really low. So I can go out and get pizza. It's mostly fine. So
yeah. Everywhere in the U.S. now, everyone believes their COVID cases are low. So we're living in the Wild West, folks. Except instead of like we're sitting, are we going to draw guns at each other? It's like, are we going to sneeze at one another? And I don't trust people when they sneeze now. I really wish people just would get to this like increased mask culture, so sick people would either not go outside or just like wear a mask from now on. I love not being sick. It's great.
I think like this was true for COVID, but also for just in general, that there's like this stat you can look up where people are disenfranchised by being sick. So like they if they're sick, they're gonna go to work, like more likely than not. And like that's just something we do for some reason. We need to learn to be like, okay, if you're sick, like with anything, you stay home, and maybe that means we need some restructuring so
that you don't have to like be a full timer at a company for 6 to 8 months in order to earn sick time pay, and you accumulate an hour every 4 months or something like that.
Yeah.
So that like you can afford to stay home and go, well, do I stay home sick or do I not eat, or do I have like not eat for 1 day next week? But no, yes. Or you know what, if you got to go there and get crushed under their horrible gears of capitalism, at least wear a mask while you do it. So I don't get sick.
Exactly.
I love it. I've approaching a year and a half of no sickness, and I'm used to being sick once a year. Nothing. It's a dream. Well, it's not fully true. I got COVID vaccine sick for like 6 hours, and it was really a bizarre experience to like any percent speed run of coronavirus, where I was like, oh, this sucks. I hate it. I feel so sick. I want to lie down and die forever. And then I'm like, oh, I'm fine.
Yeah. Where like all of.
Oh, are you talking? If you're talking, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. My second show, when I got it, I basically just died for the day. I was like just a corpse, and then I woke up the next day and I felt fine, and I was like, whoa, what happened there?
Yeah.
I really wasn't expected at all.
Yeah, because like at least for me, like there's like this mental preparedness. Like, okay, well, I have to deal with this for like the next 3 or 4 days, from having like just the regular flu, and then, yeah, there was no adjustment period. There was being sick and then not being sick. Speaking of being sick, how did you hear about Indiepocalypse?
So similar to the last guest, I ended up putting my stuff on itch.io. I participated in a game jam, and I had heard of itch before because I had gotten a couple of things off of it.
Yeah.
But I participated in the game jam, and I had a good time doing that. And so I just started searching around, and I think I found Indiepocalypse, and I got one of the issues, and I was like, oh, hey, this is pretty cool. And so then that ended up being like, oh, I could submit my own stuff here, and then that's what I did.
Perfect. It's how working as intended, as they say.
Yep. It's like a pamphlet to like indoctrinate people to the cult of Indiepocalypse.
Exactly. And the beauty of this indoctrination pamphlet is that it only costs $15 and you get paid $20. So that's your indoctrination comes with a $5 profit, theoretically.
Yeah, if you follow through.
Yeah, and they're accepted and don't make like bet. Caller, are you coming? I think I can hear me coming through your radio.
Oh, me?
Yes.
Hold on one second. Let me, I can adjust that. Okay.
Let me get really spicy and see if I can. Nope. Okay, I'm good. I'm good now. Perfect. Are you good though? I don't know what you did to adjust it. Uh-oh. If you're talking and what you did to adjust was adjust your noise gate, I can no longer hear you.
Now you got me now?
I got you now, yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, wherever you're at right now, we'll just leave it there and deal with anything else should it come to that. But that is well past what we need to. Oh, fuck, I forgot to ask the questions from the Discord from the previous guest. This is what happens when you have to go to Zoom and you close Discord. You forget that you wanted to do this segment and that. Ambrosia, what's your opinion on clouds?
Like clouds in like the sky, or like cloud like cloud computing?
The previous guest does not specify. But I'll
Does
say
not specify. Okay.
it does say that clouds is not capitalized, but the whole sentence is. So I presume this guest would respect capitalization, and that clouds is a lowercase improper noun.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go with sky clouds then.
Okay.
I like them. I mean, I live in a place where there is a lot of snow and rain. And maybe I'm weird. I don't really like sunny days like a ton. Like I like them, but I don't like getting too hot. Like I think if I lived in like Mexico, I would die. I would just turn into liquid.
I live in a place where you get the best of all worlds, and it's real great. To live in a world of 4 seasons, it's a blessing.
You live in like the Midwest or something?
No, I live in New England.
Ah, yeah.
So New England has all 4 seasons, so it's like, wow, winter rolls around and the world tries to freeze you over and kill you with ice. And then summer rolls around and tries to burn you to death. And nary a bit, and less in between as the years go on. Spring is about a week long. Yeah. No, yes, I've been weathered into submission. I accept it as it is. But so clouds. What's your favorite kind of cloud? Which strata is your favorite strata?
What's a strata, honestly?
Wait, you know how there's different levels of cloud, and some levels have cumulonimbus clouds, and then some levels have. Do you not remember your like ninth grade science class?
No, I
Environmental
guess I didn't.
sciences?
I never learned about like clouds in my course.
There,
I went to kind of a weird school, so I
Okay.
didn't have like a normal education, I don't think.
I have this very specific image in my brain of like a school textbook, and there's like dashed lines, and there's like, here are cumulus clouds, here are cirrocumulus clouds, here are other kinds of clouds. I've exhausted my cloud name knowledge.
So what's your favorite type of cloud then? I feel like you're the resident cloud expert here.
Yes, I would say that I am the resident cloud expert, being that there are two of us here and you are not a cloud expert, and I know two things about clouds. I like rain clouds. Whichever ones are rain clouds, I actually enjoy, especially as we're approaching summer. I love a good summer rain. A sun shower, as you would call it. There's something nice about it being sunny and warm out and also raining. It's like nature's shower.
Like you're getting warm, but then at the same time, nature's like, I got you, and it's cooling you down.
It's everything I like about a shower, except I don't get so wet that I'd have to change clothes or something. It's a nice feeling. I want to be out in the world again. I'm getting more anxious with every passing. Now that there are like events that are like end of 2021, maybe they're like very hopefully scheduling or whatever.
Yeah, I know. What is it, like PAX? Like PAX is supposed to be in August to September, right?
I think that one got canceled.
Really? I thought I saw on there. Well, it got canceled last year. I remember the last time I checked, I saw on their forums like apparently it's still, maybe this is like a month ago. It still said like that they were maybe planning on doing it, but they hadn't announced tickets or anything.
Oh.
But I know even if that one doesn't end up happening, there's a lot of events where it's like they're sort of in this nebulous wait and see where they're like both like planning to do it and planning to not do it at the same time.
Yeah. No, you're right. PAX East is online in July. PAX Seattle is presumably not online in September.
Yeah, so I guess they're going forward with that. I think normally they would sell tickets for something like that for like beforehand. So I'm wondering if like towards the end of this year when they start doing like events like that, is it all of a sudden, they're going to do it at the last minute and it's going to turn into this like catastrophe because like a bunch of people rush out because they think it's okay or something.
Right. Yeah. So are we just creating a new breed of, or our nerds are all conscientious vaccine getters?
Yes.
That's
hopefully.
Listen, no, PAX is going to become actually a month-long event, and then you show up, you get tested, and if you're not, if you're not vaccinated, you have to get vaccinated before you can go to PAX. So you sit in your hotel room, you get your vaccine, you get, we wait for 2 weeks. Now I feel like if I was an event staff, I'd probably get the old J&J, so that people wouldn't have to wait for so long.
Stab and go.
Exactly. Epic is giving them out, and it looks like a Fortnite gun, but it shoots a vaccine in you.
Oh, it's funny. When you first started saying that sentence, I didn't think it was a joke because of all the ridiculous stuff that companies been doing. I just kind of assumed like, oh yeah, that's normal. That's gonna happen.
Yeah, I get a vaccine and then I get Fortnite points.
Yeah, V-Bucks or whatever.
There they are, V-Bucks. I'm not on TikTok enough to know. Which is to say I'm never on TikTok at all. There's too much social media. I'm very busy. I don't have time to be on all of them. I let other people do the curation for me. I don't even know how. I don't think TikTok has marketing opportunities for me. So I'm not going to bother.
The bite-sized indie games, you can have like a 30-second clip or something.
I can't like dance in front of a camera while smiling as if I'm being held prisoner, doing a very generic dance. That is my TikTok dance, though. That gets me TikTok dance famous. TikTok feels very corporate. There's
Well, it is owned by a corporation, so
Yes.
that would make sense.
Yes, but so was Vine, but Vine felt dangerous.
Oh, you mean because people got hurt in videos more often?
No, I don't think they do. I mean, they could have, but I meant it had like a dangerous energy to it. TikTok feels solved. It feels like capitalistically solved.
It could be that in between the time that Vine existed and TikTok has ascended, that there has been an implementation of like a series of algorithms
Right.
to like make it that way.
Right. The beauty of algorithms. I don't know how to play them, and I have time to learn how to play. Do people like emojis?
I think so, but sometimes I see people online will say that emojis are just terrible, and that if you use them, then you're like failing to express yourself.
Like, when I see like if I were to post a YouTube link and then put a little reel to reel in front of it, why would I do that? Someone explain it to me.
Maybe because you're trying to like find like a visual identity that you're associating with. Like maybe other people would use that, and you're like, look, I'm like that. I'm like this emoji that these people use.
Maybe you're onto something. It feels like when you say that, like it feels like someone at a company, some PR agency, just started using that, and then everyone thinks that's what you need to do. Or maybe I am out of touch. Maybe I'm looking at the broken down 4C club, and I'm realizing that I'm the one that's out of touch. And it is, in fact, the children who are not. But I don't know. I feel like people my age and older than me are still using them, and it feels weird. Anyway, this has been Andrew's I Hate Emojis corner. Emojis are uncool corner. So that's enough of that. Enough of that segment. I think I'm going to retire this segment in this episode. It had a good 2-episode run, but I'm tired of it. And
it's time to bury the hatchet for
Yeah.
your hatred of emojis.
yes, hatchet emoji, grave emoji, dove emoji.
Oh, well, even if just because you're burying the hatchet doesn't mean you have to start hatchet emojiing.
No, I do. I'm going full all the way in. I'm just going to embrace the lifestyle now. No, I'm not going to. I even make my own gifts because I have this weird disease in my brain or something that I can't. I'm like, well, if I didn't make it and it had its own awkward loop to it that shows that it's real artisanal. It wasn't culled from a Giphy or something. Anyway, not relevant to the stuff at the moment. What is more relevant though is video games, right? You know those, right?
Yeah, I've heard of them before.
Perfect.
Once or twice.
Phew! Thank God, dodged that bullet there. I do that too often. You become hyper aware of the things you constantly do when you have to do them week after week, and the realization that in talking to you, you don't know that I do these things all the time, but I'm increasingly aware that people listening that I do these things all the time. That I have these real fallbacks, but not fallbacks enough that they can be gimmick or Anyway, my point is, what's a good video game?
Oh, what's a good video game?
Just
any
good video
like
game.
a specific one, or like as like an abstract form. What's the
last? When I say what's a good video game, what's the first video game that comes to your brain?
I think that games have changed in like a pretty drastic way. I used this metaphor recently that like with film early on in the medium, you would have like silent films, and you might have like an orchestra playing and pretty low quality video. But then at a certain point, we transitioned to having sound in the film and then like having color. And I think with games, when you're going back and looking at like Atari cartridges versus what we have now, we've like completely changed like the idea. And like it's different even than like film or books, because like with a movie, you always just you watch it, or like with a book, you generally you read it the same way. Maybe you like read it from like right to left or left to right, depending on where you are. But like with games, we're getting to this point where like they're just this all-encompassing thing. You look at the Indiepocalypse library, like all of the games, they're just like they feel like they're all different mediums. Like it's weird calling them video games because they're all so like one of the guests earlier was talking about military shooters, and it's just sort of hard to believe that like Battlefield 2042 is existing in like the same space as like some indie game about like being trapped in a room and like going insane or something, or like something that's like a
That sounds really familiar. Do you know any games that would be like that?
Oh, well, I made one.
Oh yeah. What would you call a game like that? Would you call it Extended Care Unit Room 19B?
I guess you would call that. It's sort of ironic, actually. After I made that, I ended up having to go to a hospital immediately after and have surgery. And I was stuck during COVID because nobody could come see me. So I was like alone. And
How was the thermostat work in your room?
Oh, it worked okay. I mean, I couldn't really move, so the nurse had to help me, but the thermostat worked okay. I didn't have to constantly adjust it so that I wouldn't die.
Perfect. That's an ideal way for a thermostat to work. No, I was talking to someone recently about how, and they mentioned that like feels like they thought it felt like games were just retreading French New Wave and like basically just like yes. And like that really struck with me because there's like my frustration with games is that it feels like it's constantly retreading art movements that already happened, but nobody has any context for them. And games don't really have. I would say games don't really have art movements anyway. Really, they don't have like a stylistic movements.
I think that I'd like to say like this is an issue unique to games, but I think if you look at film, it's not this. Is that like there's a lot of corporate power in the game industry, so it's sort of difficult for there to be like an art wave when like just to make like even a mid-budget game, you have to have a lot of money and organization, and that requires like investors and like just there's a lot less control from like maybe an artist for like making projects.
Right, unless you're like a super famous person, they're not going to let you do your weird auteur projects, and even then you still have a lot of shooting in it.
Exactly.
Looking at Kojima.
Yeah, you've got like the Kojima hiking parcel delivery game, but then like it's also got assault rifles and you're shooting, and it's like I don't think you can have that. You get like the Last of Us, which is like trying to be like a really long drama, but then like in between all the drama scenes, you just like have like incredibly like intense action sequences where you're like shooting assault rifles.
Yes, it's all video games are funding for video games is weird. I think part of it has to do with there's no the market for it isn't there yet. Like the audience for it isn't there yet. It's also games are also very young and even younger in terms of like recognition. I feel like we've mentioned this on a different show, or maybe I spoke privately. I don't remember. So many conversations blending it, but the idea that so long as games have existed, artistic expression within them, any medium, so long as it exists, art exists within it. But people are just kind of more starting to pay attention to it because they're starting to pay attention to everything, and also it's far more easier to distribute.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that there's like a there's still probably like a cultural stigma around
Yeah.
it because games were marketed in two ways early on, at least in the Americas. It was like consoles for your children at home and like arcades.
Yeah.
And there's like your foundation is like very like thoroughly ingrained in society that it's like a child's toy. So it's sort of difficult to like step out of that.
So I guess I've got to ask as we're approaching the end of our segment here, Ambrosia, what is the 400 blows of video games?
Is 400 Blows like a very specific artistic piece that I am unaware of?
Yeah.
Am I a Philistine?
Listen, we gotta. So you don't know where you fall in the Truffaut Godard? Which camp you fall into?
I actually like I at one point I think I knew what you were talking about. Like this sounds so familiar to me. I think when I was in early college that this was something that I was looking into.
Yeah.
And for some reason my brain just has not made like the wire connection to be like, oh yeah, that thing.
Don't worry about it. Somebody once said that exact thing to me, or not the exact thing, but the idea of it's real fun to listen to your show, but sometimes I don't know what you and your guests are talking about, even though they politely nod along. So I often worry that when I say things, people don't know what I am talking about.
No, you've made sense most of the time. I mean, maybe that's just me. Like I think 400 Blows is like,
Yeah.
oh, and then Clouds, I guess. I don't know
Yes.
anything about Clouds apparently.
But when I was talking about No One Can Stop Mr. Domino, you're nodding along sagely like, yes, I know all about Mr. Domino.
Oh yeah, no, I played Mr. Domino when I was a kid. I have 8 copies, you know?
And how he cannot be truly stopped. 400 Blows, in 1959, French Truffaut. Anyway, I was thinking of it because we were talking about French New Wave, and that was an early film of. Anyway, let's forget about that guy. I think about that sort of like I was going to talk once I submitted a talk to an event that was canceled, where I was like something about trying to find out what is the in the airplane over the sea of video games, and like trying to uncover that chestnut. Ambrosia, what is in the airplane over the sea of video games? Oh no, did I? Do you know
what is the airplane over the sea?
With Ambrosia, great to talk to you. We're gonna go to break. I will be back in about 1 minute and 28 seconds. Thanks for being here, everyone. We'll see you soon with our jam-packed 4th guest of the show, BRB. Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Morpha 2 by Big Star, because like the man Paul Westerberg himself, I also never travel very far without it. We are here with our 4th and final guest, who you may know from, let's go all the way back to issue 5 of Indiepocalypse with the Architects. Brain You Later, the Architect Saga, Chapter 1. It is Miguel Rosso. Miguel, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me here. It's great to be here.
Miguel, what is in the airplane over the sea of video games?
That's a good question. I have listened to that album a couple of times in the past. I'm not too familiar with it though. But in terms of like a sort of experimental landmark of video games for me, which I think can be something that can relate back to this album somehow.
Yes.
I would say Sluggish Morse. I don't know if you know that series. It's a trilogy of like super experimental and futuristic.
What was that again?
Sluggish Morse. It's by Jack King Spooner and Jake Clover. 2 amazing developers who I have a lot of respect for, and yeah, I think that it's a series that is just very very influential for me. I know how to speak, and yeah, I knew that I was gonna mention it sometime in the show because it's one of like my main inspirations.
Yes,
and I just did. Yeah,
perfect. Just got out of the way very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, now it's perfect because we have different frames of reference for what that. Asking questions like that is also great because it's like, how does the person interpret that question? I think my angle for the talk was that I viewed it as something like, something that was culturally important, but that most people found like imminently completely insufferable to listen to.
I mean, in a way, I think it's a very important. I think it still relates in that way.
Yeah, I think so.
To the album, because it's a series of games that people can find just they are pretty cryptic and visually. If you're not into the style, it can be like overwhelming for sure, right? But at the same time, for me it's super influential. Like,
yes. Now we just need to find a way to make those games to be ultra. Now the tricky thing is like canonizing those games, because canonization is the thing that like is tricky, that games run into the most problems with, and that there's very little of it outside of like stuff made by Nintendo or whatever.
Yeah, right.
It's canonization and financial success are there. It's like that Venn diagram is like a circle.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. As it was mentioned on the show earlier, it's video games culturally have always, or historically have always been very linked to a very corporative and like high sort of capitalist structure, right? Yeah, sure.
Now,
and then there's indie games.
Sure. Yes. Speaking of, that's a great transition to speak of indie games. How did you hear about Indiepocalypse?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I actually have, I think, for me, it's a very interesting thing, because it's the first time that when Brainilator was featured on Indiepocalypse issue 5, it was the first time that I participated on a scene, right, or an independent publication like that.
Yeah.
But that's always been a topic that I have loved and that I've had a lot of admiration for, not only with regards to like video games, but in general, like independent scenes and like physical scenes and comics and stuff.
Yes, I am noted fan of those art scenes.
Yeah.
Might have made cool. Very long.
I guess it makes sense. And well, I've always been, as I said, always been interested in that world, and in fact, I do some illustration stuff as well as together with video games and stuff.
Yeah.
So I've always wanted to participate in something like that. But Indiepocalypse specifically, I found out by just kind of browsing around on itch.
Yeah.
A lot. I don't get to play, like, I'm not like. I find that a lot of game developers on indie scenes and stuff have a big admiration for games as an art form, but don't play a lot of games themselves. And
yes.
And that's also the case with me. I mean, I do play video games, but it's I browse a lot more itch than I play games, right? That's a weird sort of proportion there, but so anyway, so just by browsing on itch, I saw that the scene got featured a couple of times before, and I was drawn into it really through the wonderful and awesome cover art that you always have going on every issue, which is something that it's very interesting. Just visually, I find it, you always have an aesthetic going, right?
If you are here in the live stream, that is what those things in the center of the screen, those are the covers. Usually,
they always look really awesome, and that actually was kind of one of the main things that of course, the cover art is the first thing you see from a publication. So that's.
Miguel,
hence its name.
When I played Indiepocalypse, I did not know COVID existed, so there was a plan to well, how am I going to demo what is now 180 games easily at events? Well, I can't. Well, how do I show them off then?
Sure.
Well,
And so I always had like an eye, like I always, even though I guess it was, I don't know for how long you had been, Indiepocalypse had been going, like
4
in terms
months.
of 4 months, okay, before the fifth.
Yes.
Right, it makes sense. Sure.
It's a month per issue.
The publication, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was always like, I had an eye out, right, for when it was coming out, and when I released Brainy later, it just, the interest was there to participate in a project like this, and I saw that you had your submissions open, so I just went for it, I guess.
No, glad you did. Like,
thank you. Yeah, me too. Honestly, it's awesome. I've gone to events pre-COVID in Madrid, where I lived for a couple of years studying. I went to a couple events that were dedicated to like independent publications and fanzines and stuff, and it's always been just something that fascinates me, honestly, as a scene, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just
I'm definitely gonna.
That's how I found out about it.
Perfect. I'm definitely going to like sneak Indiepocalypse into zine events because technically it is a zine.
Sure.
I even submitted it to like a zine submission. Sometimes I just like to submit things even though I know it won't get in, just so that people become aware of it.
Right. Yeah. That's the mindset for sure.
Like, I know I'm like, I've even said, I think that the last event I submitted to was like a maze. And I was like, I don't know how this works, but like,
that's cool.
I was probably not going to get into that kind of thing, but I say, well, at least the people will know it exists and like maybe like the concept and kind of like spreads it around.
Yeah, sure. That's awesome. I hope you get in.
I mean, I probably won't because it's not a game. It's like a collection of games or something. It's a weird, awkward thing that nobody knows what to do with.
But that's awesome. It's better than all of those other.
Listen, we don't need to drag other people. As much as I enjoy to drag people through the mud, and I will probably increasingly do so, because who cares, really?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
No, who cares whether they like me or not? But that's like I'm not in a feisty mood at the moment. I'm punchy, but I'm not that kind of punchy.
No, sure. Yeah, me neither, honestly. In terms of like internet arguments and stuff.
Yeah, no.
I tend to never participate, like verbally.
I often wonder, and it's hard to say, but I want to be like, how do people, like, whenever I glance over, like, say, Twitter, and I see the same people on there, like, all day, and it's like, where do you find the time? But that seems like a mean question to ask, because it's kind of like I'm asking, do you not have a life?
Yeah, I can see that. But yeah, that's something that I wonder as well. Sometimes I, even though I don't participate, actively, I drop a like here and there.
No, yeah, I try to do that. I've been trying to get better at that. But like I've posted a Twitter thread, and then it's like my whole day.
Yeah, sure.
Is responding to people. It takes a long time to talk to people. It's longer than you think. Spending time talking to people. Yeah,
and I don't know about other people, but whenever I tweet something, I spend a lot of time thinking about, okay, what am I going to write?
Right.
Is this sentence okay? Does it look weird?
How will it be received? What is?
Yeah.
Sure. What are all the potential responses you can get? And then I have to mentally draft all my responses to those potential responses.
Yeah.
It's a wild world out there on the internet, but
it is.
That's why I made this show, so I can just hang out and like chat with people without having to worry about, like, who knows, doing numbers or something.
Yeah.
And plus, I miss events.
Yeah, before I went to this couple of events in Madrid. I have gone to a couple of like more video game centric events.
Right.
To be honest, I don't miss those too much. Like I have, well,
Yeah.
I went once. I went to an event in Tenerife, which is an island in the Canary Islands, where I went there with the team and we were presenting an indie game, and there was an indie like section, I
Yeah.
guess. With a couple of indie teams, that was cool. That was a cool experience. But and then I went to another one in Madrid, which was like all indie developers. But apart from that, everything is like again super big corporations,
Yeah.
Sony, Nintendo, blah blah blah. It's
Right. How do
not
you
very...
stand? Yes, but also, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Mostly because I'm approaching it now from this new angle because
Mhm.
I'm going to sell things. Like my purpose of going
sure.
to events is to sell products to people, which is usually not what video games do.
Mhm.
They usually like just it's like they're paying for exposure. It's all payment for exposure.
Yeah. That's right.
When I see people like, even when I've been at events, even before I started this whole thing, whenever I saw people like giving out stickers and pins, I'm like, you could sell those things, you don't need to give them away.
Yeah.
It's especially when you go to other events like a zine fest. You're like, oh, none of these people are here. Like, check out my zine, read it, and then go visit me online. They're like, no, buy it. I want you to pay money.
Right, sure, yeah, that's right.
But like,
That's right.
yeah, games are all screwed up. But I have a question here from a previous episode's guest for you.
Oh, awesome.
That I keep forgetting to get into that rhythm. What's your favorite piece of niche media you wish more people knew about?
Oh, okay. Well,
and let's categorize this as if you say I'll let you answer the question. I will append things later, perhaps.
Okay, sure. I mean, I think on one side, I don't think my tastes are that unique or original or something like that.
Yeah.
But on the other, I would say that I do consume a lot of niche media.
Sure.
In video games and in music, for example, I like niche, and I like experimental and out there in a sense.
Right.
So I might have to think a little bit because a lot of things come to my mind. Can I give you more than one answer?
Oh yeah, go ahead. You can give me as many answers as you want. There are no rules here.
Well, in terms of video games, I am a big fan of like horror and stuff.
Yeah.
And like again, experimentation and like weird ideas that aren't your shooter, your Battlefield with zombies sort of horror game, right? So there's a game comes to my mind which is called Walls by I'm gonna Google the developer so that I don't get their name wrong.
Yes.
1 second. I can tell you a little bit about it while I Google for the developer. It's a game that was made for a game jam, and it's like a very, very short game. It's like 5 minutes only, and you're in this room, and in the span of those 5 minutes, really intense stuff starts to go on in a way that's really interesting. I'm still looking for the developer, by the way. I'm not forgetting about that. But
you said it was called Walls?
Yeah, Walls. It doesn't pop up. It's by Redact Games. They also have another game that's called A Structure of Unknown Origin at Little Pine State Park, which is an amazing.
A bit easier to find.
Yeah, that one is a bit easier. Yeah, the name is a bit more unique. But it was it's another game that has such a unique idea. You're exploring, as the title suggests, this like this structure of unknown origin in a park, and you go in it, and it's so like cerebral. It's this. I'm a big fan of Redact Games, the developer, and yeah, it's I that's one of my recommendations. I guess it's two, but those are two of my recommendations. And then for music, for example, yeah, I enjoy a lot of experimental rock and like noise stuff. I've been getting into noise and
Yes.
post-punk
Okay.
vibes lately. So a band that's well, I'm gonna go full out specific here.
Yes.
Album Cryptomnesia by Omar Rodriguez Lopez. An amazing album of like noise rock and just progressive madness. It's awesome.
So what was that again?
Cryptomnesia by Omar Rodriguez Lopez. He's the founder and guitarist of the Mars Volta, which is a band that I love as well.
Okay.
See, all of this stuff, somehow I knew that I was going to mention, because it's just stuff that is around my head, like a lot. And Cryptomnesia is a very niche album, I think. You certainly have to like the aesthetic that it's going for to even stand it, because I can perfectly see how if that's not your thing, you're going to listen to it for maybe like a minute, and it's gonna be like, okay, that's fine, I'm gonna leave it there, right?
Yeah, I don't need to listen. Yes, I know what you're. Yes, I listen to a lot of.
Yeah, so I guess those are a bit of a window into the kind of stuff that I like. I've also been listening to a lot of Black Midi lately. I don't know.
Oh, I had just listened to the new. I think it's the new Black Midi album.
Yeah, Cavalcade?
Yes, I just listened to it very recently.
I love that album. It's so great.
Yeah, yes, very good stuff. I listen to a lot of music.
Mm-hmm.
Like, too much even. But I'm at this point where, I just like fire up Bandcamp, and everything in there daily I just add. And then listen and try to listen to it eventually.
Yeah, Bandcamp is like a scene that I want to get more into, because I'm more, I'm not at the level of like going in, like to get Bandcamp as a routine, I guess.
Right.
I go in there for specific like bands that I know that have, their accounts there and stuff, but I don't usually explore through Bandcamp too much. I use like Last.fm and like Music Map and websites like that. Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome.
I just mostly use their editorial side to find stuff for me, and I'm sure there are like there are like probably there's that one that I always forget. Is it Quietus? Is that the blog I'm thinking of that I always forget? That's a music blog, right?
I don't know it.
I don't either, because I don't go to it. It is okay.
Oh, cool.
That may be I can't remember the one. That's the one I'm thinking of. But anyway, there's a lot of music blogs. But that's like you're saying you're not too into niche music, but you just said like a solo project of a guy. So it's like once you're getting into like Mars Volta solo projects, I don't know how.
Yeah, that's actually not the first time that someone says something like that to me. Like, I don't know how you get to be into this sort of stuff. Yeah,
but I think that's why when you were saying you're like, oh, I don't know if I'm into niche stuff, I was going to ask you, like, because sometimes you just kind of get so far up your own ass you don't know what's niche anymore.
Sure. No, I can see how that's something that's going on with my taste.
Yeah,
totally.
You're like no, this album is niche because I found it in a dirty gutter somewhere.
Yeah,
but not like. And you think, well, everyone knows what all this stuff is. Like, I'm sort of like taking for granted, but like, what if? Do you know Big Star?
I don't actually.
See, that's what I mean. I think we're gonna like everybody, literally. Big Star is basic stuff for basic music for basic losers.
Is it?
But no, that's like how I'm critiquing of myself. But
Okay.
that's because it's very easy. I think in music especially, it's very, because it turns out it's very easy to listen to music, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very easy to get like way down and like into increasingly niche work. But we're approaching the last moment of our time here privately before we all get into a big old group together.
Cool.
So, Miguel, great to have you here.
Thank you. It's been great.
Great to have you as part of the zine, as a guest on the show. And
Sure, yeah.
before we all go, I gotta ask. I already asked you a bunch of questions, whatever, and we kind of went over long. And so instead, what I'm going to do is just say thank you for being here. We'll get you back in roughly 2 minutes and 38 seconds.
Cool.
See you on the other side, everybody. Hello, and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was Hazy Sour Cherry with Tour de Tokyo. They are off. Damnably Records has been doing a lot of heavy lifting on this show because it's really just like exceptional stuff. I am really looking forward to the new Drinking Boys and Girls Choir album that's coming out like, I don't know, a couple months or so. There's an EP out now called Marriage License. It's very good music. They sign a lot of like Asian independent artists. So if you're like, it's cool that everyone likes K-pop, but I'm like too cool for that. So I want like these Korean punk band indies. Damnably has got your back. We're here with everyone now for our final segment of the show. Hello, everyone. How you doing?
Hello again.
Hiya. Again.
Hey.
Now you're all once again in a same room. So I gotta ask let's go straight from the top. Did anyone else have any questions for anyone else on the show that were just like pressing that they needed to get in and then did not get in, but would like to ask now?
Like one of us?
Yes, one of you. Any of you, if you had a question
cool.
for another guest, if you wanted to hold your own little mini interview in the moment.
Cool. Well, I don't have a like structured question off the top of my head, but I guess I can maybe form a comment.
Okay.
I really enjoyed your game, Ambrosio, that was featured on Indiepocalypse. I thought that was very, very interesting as a sort of text narrative, right? A text adventure of sorts. So is the text based medium in a way something that you find interesting or inspiring in video games, or was that more of a one-time idea of sorts?
Was it the extended care or 4 stories that you?
Extended care, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was more like I also do visual art. I think you said
sure.
you do visual art too. I think I've seen some of yours actually.
Oh.
It's pretty cool.
Thank you.
I do art, but I lost confidence in my drawing for a little bit. And so when I went to start making more games, I had been primarily interested in like tabletop stuff before for creating. So I kind of I felt like text would be easier to start with. And then as I got into it, then I tried to make it more of a thing. Like I was like, okay, what's like the maximum amount I can get away with while like, limiting myself to text, or can I do something interesting with text? Like how most of the game is, there's no visuals, but then occasionally you get visuals, or you can get visuals towards the end.
Which are pretty cool, by the way. I love the scene where the protagonist is remembering the forest, and you've got like the composition where there's the picture of the trees in the middle, and then there's the text duplicated on either side. That's cool. I love that.
Thank you. Yeah, I was able to get away with a lot of the heavy lifting for like animation there by using like shaders to like sort of like create like an illusory effect. But now I feel like I'm more obliged. Like, I don't know if you feel this way, but like early on when you're making games, it's like, okay, I'm making this and like this is okay. But then I feel like I need to expect more from myself. So like stuff I'm working on right now, I'm like demanding like, no, you have to do a lot more than you did before. Otherwise you're not going to progress as an artist.
Totally. In fact, I'm sort of running away from that feeling right now, actively, with the project that I'm developing right now. It's like, so there's, I don't want to get rambly here, but I released 2 chapters of the project that's called the Architect Saga, which I'm developing, and there's one more chapter that it's all written down and it's all like laid out, sort of shot for shot how it's going to be and stuff. But now I'm developing a smaller, game that's way more like, in a sense, it's very different. And I sort of started it out of the burnout of developing the other 2 games very quickly, and suddenly having this like corner, in a sense, that I didn't see a way out of like, well, now the next game has to look like this and has to play like this, since the previous 2 games played in a specific way, right? I think that's a similar thing, yeah. So I can get that, and I'm running away from that. I'm trying to do something different now. Yeah.
Do you think that like perhaps, I know this might seem like sacrilege, but perhaps like that's some sort of inspiration that maybe the next portion should be completely different? Like you could possibly
Sure. Yeah, that's one of the ideas, to have in the 3rd chapter, there's some sequences that are like flashbacks to way before, to a time that's very prior to like the present in the story, right? And the idea is to have those sequences at least be very different from everything else. But still, it's I think the word for it is just burnout, honestly. From working too much.
Yeah.
I have a day job, and then I have the projects, and just working 16 hours a day on everything is a bit too much.
Yes, I think we need to sort of like, I found it kind of relieving to learn to just like, if I step away and stop at like 8 o'clock, sure, it won't get done as fast, but maybe it'll get done better,
Yeah.
But it's a hard mind space to get into, because you see everyone working constantly, and you're like, well, I got to catch up.
Yeah, and social media, of course, plays a role in that as well.
Yeah.
That sort of pressure, right?
Yeah, because
which
like
I'm very bad at, by the way. I'm very bad at social media. I'm trying to get into the flow of like posting work in progress stuff. But...
Yes, I'm trying to find my way there too, because like, it turns out if I go on there and I yell about stuff, people pay attention, and they're like, "Oh, it's the complication of needing to become an indie figurehead without wanting to become a figurehead, and it's all a thing."
When talking about burnout, I know I've definitely experienced that more recently, where with the project I'm working on, I worked on it for a few months, and like I had to take a break, and I'm only now getting back to it. And it's like, you just feel like you need to catch up. That's right. And I look at like Toby Fox, he did like an update on like his Undertale sequel or whatever, last year, I think. And if you read in his blog, he's talking about like how his hands and stuff aren't like working as well, and like all of these difficulties he's having. And he's like an extremely successful developer, and so it's sort of weird to like see a successful developer be like, oh yeah, I'm burnt out, I'm like struggling, I'm trying to like work on this all the time. And it's like I don't know, is that our curse to like make games and like get burnt out constantly?
No, that's everyone's curse. It's the culture of just like constantly making stuff, and if you don't make stuff forever, you'll never be good enough, and everything has to be new. And if your thing didn't sell, what do? You just move on to making the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the video game like industry, like professionally, there's a lot of expectation.
Yeah.
From higher ups in a sense, for you to like be, willing to like give your life for the the company or whatever. And there's crunch culture and all that is very normalized in video games. I mean, I guess in all facets of work, right? But
yeah,
it seems that video games certainly might not be the worst case of it, but they definitely are suffering from a big, crisis in that sense.
Yeah, and then except when you're working independently, it's like you have a million little bosses all mad at you for not putting games out fast enough, or you imagine they're all going to get mad at you, or you're not going to get paid.
Yeah, I was going to say those million bosses might be just inside your head.
Yeah, I think you're your own worst boss.
Sure.
I have a question actually for both of you. It's first I have to explain how I came to this. Okay. More recently when I was working, I came to the realization that I might be making something that's like too niche. Like it's like I realized at a certain point, like, oh, the nudity that is in this, or like the content that is in this, like this is sort of like I've created like an unstreamable game, and I had like playtesters playing it and telling me like, like half of them were like, maybe you should have like a trigger warning for this because this this shit freaked me out. And it's sort of like when I was making it, I definitely wanted to make something that was disconcerting, but I just wasn't sure like how, you don't know how something you're going to make is going to be received. Do you ever worry about like making something where you're like, I've painted myself into like the ultimate niche where it's like, did I just make some sort of like abomination that cannot be deciphered or like interacted with by like others?
That's my goal in life, really.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
if you make your indecipherable niche abomination, submit it to Indiepocalypse, I'll probably love it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, for me, in the case of the Architect Saga, this project, I would say it is pretty niche. I mean, it's pretty weird and experimental, but whether or not it accomplishes what it sets out to do, right? I have a certain, for me, it was also about kind of, on the one side, there was the expression side of it, of like, I want to, say this in this way, and I have this weird little story that I want to tell, but I also wanted it to sort of feel sort of polished enough, right? In a weird sense. And what I'm doing now is sort of the opposite of that. I am, trying to be as blocky and rough as possible, and I like that. And in terms of like going back to sorry if I get too rambly, by the way. You can stop me at any moment. But in the topic of like the trigger warnings and stuff, I do think that maybe trigger warnings can be, a good option to at least give that, make sure that people know sort of what they're getting into, if it's, that sort of, I don't know, extreme, maybe let's call it. But I would totally go for the weird unstreamable thing if your goal is not for it to be streamed, right? So I have projects that I really want to someday do, and which are certainly unstreamable as well, which have very explicit scenes and nudity in them as well. So yeah. It's but I guess it depends on.
I mean, even when I was like looking for streamers to stream Indiepocalypse, I'm like, who are these games like? Because streamer culture is like a whole other thing where it's like it's like a business in and of itself where you need to get people to watch you. So you need to stream what people want to watch. And then so it's like as good as any of these games I think in the zines are, who wants to watch them because nobody knows what they are. So it's like this vicious, endless cycle.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
I think another thing that you could add on, and maybe this is I don't know, maybe I or we are wrong in this way, but do you even want to create a product that can be consumed that way? Because I've thought about it. There are things in games I've made or others have made where you just don't, if you're watching the stream of that, you don't get that, where maybe there's a part where the controls give out for a second and the game doesn't let you make a choice. And as a streamer, you'd have to tell the audience, be like, oh hey, my controller's not working, for them to get that aspect of the interactivity. It's not entirely, it's maybe you don't even want to do that. Maybe we shouldn't even be trying to appeal to that.
I look through it really I put on my business pants and I'm like, I need to get more eyeballs on the zine. When I trot on down to twitch.tv and I'm like, nope. You say you love indie. I mean, that's also you're into the issue of what people mean when they say indies. I've seen people say, I love indies like The Last Guardian. And I'm just like, what?
Yeah, that's... I love indies like Death Stranding, yeah.
Yes. That's my favorite independent video game.
Yeah. That's fine. And also there's the whole, not to drag on anyone.
Drag away.
No, I mean I don't mean to
no,
to be mean about it, but there's a culture on streaming sites and on YouTube and stuff where you see people making gameplays and they're playing, and there's a weird contrast between the games, the type of games that they're playing, and the what they're getting out of them. Yeah. Because you see a lot of people playing super wild, experimental, meaningful, deep games, and their commentary, is whoa, this person was on drugs.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking. What were they smoking?
Yeah.
And the refrain you often hear is that when you're on drugs, you don't get any work done.
Yeah. And apart from that, it's so this person who has this YouTube channel or Twitch channel or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, with all due respect, what's the point of making a video where you don't, say anything about the work that you're supposedly commenting, right? Yeah. Other than, wow, it's so crazy.
Because I think I've seen people anecdotally say getting featured by a big streamer most of the time. Sometimes it's if your game is basically it's a real capital V video game that people clearly understand. That translates into sales. But most of the time, if you make something, say, a little weirder or more experimental, it doesn't help you in the slightest.
Yeah, totally.
But I think when you're to talk a little about the idea of you don't want to drag people, that sort of thing. Well, I think we're a very criticism wary field, and maybe that's just everyone culturally, but I think disliking something somebody doesn't mean you hate them forever and you wish they were catapulted into the sun. I mean,
yeah.
But I think it's often received that way. The most mild of criticism sometimes it's well, how dare you? And it's well, no, I just don't like the way you do that. I think it's bad for the game. I think it's demeaning to the medium.
Sure, absolutely.
I dislike plenty of games and marketing angles and stuff, I'm sure, that are created by people who are just fine people. Mm-hmm. But I think their games suck. Or they're the more as I'm starting to get on Twitter more, I'm starting to block a lot more people.
Yeah.
Just if I don't like to see their face, and by their face I mean their posts.
Their tweets, yeah.
Yeah, it's I can't stand this. I'm just gonna get rid of it so I don't look at it again. And nobody can stop me.
So are you saying that you would want like streamers to be more critical? Like
Yeah. I think there's like a space for like to like really, but I think it also really helps with like, maybe it's just how I work, but like when there are two people, you can really like bounce off each other, and like that's why there is like, you know, Siskel and Ebert. When you can speak to another person, there's like you get more ideas out, and you have like differing opinions sometimes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And you can
there's actually a gameplay on YouTube of Brainidator, one of my games, that, you know, where there were two people playing it, and yeah, I think that was probably one of the most interesting commentaries. You know,
because like even like when there are two people, I think sometimes like you want to like float ideas past the other person, or like you can ask a question when normally like you wouldn't ask it of yourself. You're like, oh, I noticed something, and you have someone to tell you noticed a thing. Like,
and also that was so painful to watch because they encountered a weird glitch in the game that I didn't know was there, where you can, you know, fall off of the world at a specific point, and that they fell off the world. They went through the game again, and they fell off again on the same spot. It was so, I was like, no, I'm so sorry.
But yeah, that's the curse of that kind of thing. It's like, well, somehow they can perfectly replicate a bug I didn't know existed.
Yeah.
That's video games.
Yeah, that's software development in general.
Yeah, God,
like that.
That sucks. Could you imagine watching a movie and just like filming a movie, and then somehow you watch a movie wrong, and then the main actor just clips through a wall and gets stuck in it? You have to restart the movie.
The camera doesn't point at the character; it just gets stuck on a shot.
Yeah, what a weird broken medium video games are.
Yeah. But it's cool. That also makes them cool, you know.
I think. Yeah, I think yes, exactly, and I think it all was the playthrough good. Otherwise, you enjoyed it. Otherwise, though.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, I've seen a lot of people playing through the games that you know have had very, you know, interesting things.
Yeah.
Or just interesting reactions, right? Sometimes you're looking for a specific reaction, right? Maybe not a specific thought of like, oh, this means this, but maybe you want something surprising or whatever. And when you see someone be surprised or happy about something or whatever it is, that's cool. That's interesting, yeah. But also there's sometimes where it's like, you know, complete silence. It's like, oh, this is weird.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks for playing my game. I guess it is weird.
Oh, there's someone in the chat asking where's Amber. Amber was on first and is currently living in a time zone that is 1 a.m. So she has left earlier, about an hour and a half ago, because she did not want to stay up until like 3 a.m. hanging out on this show. But it is fortunately recorded. This show is not on Twitch because I have music and I don't want to get my VODs canceled. I don't want to be banned from twitch.tv. But it'll come up if you're a patron. You get it Monday after. Yes, 3 a.m. in the time zone. I can't live that life anymore. I could if I could do this full time. I could sit whatever hours I wanted. But this show will go up a month later if you're in the free zones, and for $5 patrons, it's up on Monday, because I don't want. It was originally work I didn't want to do, and because I make all the rules, and I already had a month worth of backlog unreleased, I was like, I can just use that for. And you got to put something on the Patreon, you know.
Yeah.
And people love to put podcasts on the Patreon in early access.
Yeah, it's a way to get your monies.
Yes, and if I get money, then developers get money, and then let's all get paid. See, hopefully it'll all pay off in the long run. It's a whole long run. But
And
yes.
oh no, nothing.
We had like a sudden influx of people last minute. I keep an eye on my creator dashboard, mostly so that I can see time to watch the session time, and to make sure that there's somebody in the channel. But we are approaching 2 hours. I'm trying to cut these off at 2 hours now.
Sure.
To make so that they are listenable. I'm not. This isn't hardcore history over here.
I have one question. All right, are we ending it, or can I pose another question?
Oh, you can pose another question. I am very bad at ending it. Kind of like when this has that vibe of like hanging out after an event where everyone keeps trying to leave, but then nobody leaves, and they just keep talking.
Oh yeah. Or like maybe like when you're at a party or something, and like maybe half the people left, and there's like two people with like some beers on the couch.
Hey,
I was gonna say
my tab. My mistake.
As far as like being like, what would, if you made something, like at what point do you consider it successful? Like, is it the amount of like people that played it? Is it like one person that played it that had like a transcendent experience? And I guess this could apply to like making Indiepocalypse too. Like let's say like only one person bought an issue or something, and then they were like, this Indiepocalypse changed my life. Like, would that be like, all right, it's worth it to make Indiepocalypse forever because that one person's life was changed, or
So I would say that it's multi-tiered. For me, it's worth it to go just because I just got for the next. Well, I had to answer a question from the audience. I will say this next issue, the current issue, the one that is out right now, is currently the second highest selling issue, behind Indiepocalypse 15. Winter doing the numbers and bringing all propers to Freya Campbell and Elliot Harriman for bringing in the good dosh for that issue with Winter, which is also doing great post Indiepocalypse free on its own, which I am very glad about. It's very exciting to see.
Cool.
To see it pop up everywhere. I'm like very happy. But anyway, personally, for me, it's tiers. Back to my tiers. Let's talk a cake. Mm-hmm. The bottom layer is the fact that somebody in like just yesterday in the you're all familiar with the Indiepocalypse anthology acceptance forum.
Yeah.
In the that kind of like additional questions, they said thank you for making this, and I'm like, no, thank you for making these games. So like little comments like that make it feel worth it, or just like somebody being like, wow, this is very cool, I like this makes it feel worth it. But then there's a second tier where it's like, I still have to do a day job and it doesn't make me any money, so no, it's not actually successful in that way. So I separate personal, like emotional or whatever success, but then there's also financial success, and I want them both.
Sure, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Or the dream rather.
Yes.
So for me, by the way, I accidentally closed the little tab on Chrome of the call, so I think I got the question, in its entirety, but I may have missed. I think the introduction to the question, but my answer would be, so for my personal projects, there's always, some idea behind the literal story of what's going on that I want to, at least express. So I guess, again, as Andrew said, I guess it's also layered. if I feel like I have, in a way that's at least that makes sense to me, that I have expressed whatever I wanted to express, I guess that makes it successful. I feel that way actually about the way that the Architect Saga has come about. Whether or not the games are successful in for someone in someone else's eyes. For me, they're successful in the sense that they for me they express what I wanted to express, right? And they served as the sort of vehicle for the thoughts that I wanted to put out, in a sense. And then for me, there's another point to it. In the case of my personal projects, as of today, I don't see a near future where I can live off of the Architect Saga, for example. It's too small. We're not necessarily small, too niche. I don't know if I can ever live off of a game where a giant sperm sings to you, right?
Right.
I don't know how marketable that is, but in any case, apart from like the personal satisfaction that I might have with the games, what I like to see when I see someone else play through them is, as I mentioned before, if I write a specific scene, thinking, hopefully this scene causes this reaction in the viewer or something like that. Even if there's just one viewer who like does that, who gets that, for me that's very satisfying in a sense. But yeah, as of today, I don't expect to live off of these projects. So I don't consider them. I don't hold them to the standard of being successful or not in terms of financial success, because that's not even in the picture for me right now. It's not something that I see giving me money, in a sense. It's something that I'm doing out of love for the arts.
Yes, yes, that's yeah. I'm hoping through the long tail of Indiepocalypse, I will help cover some of that financial success for people, and submit to this, that I will help you create the culture where people can
sure.
Next time you go to a show in Madrid, you can sell the Architect Saga for buy all of them for $5 or an individual episode for $2, and people would be like, that makes sense to spend that kind of money.
Yeah, that makes sense as well.
But right now, people
it's just sure.
Yeah, and because like you said yourself, people go to zine shows and they buy zines, and zines are not very long usually, but they'll pay money for them.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just it's all the culture isn't there yet, but hopefully it'll be there eventually, maybe.
Yeah, and there's a light sort of coming through that dark tunnel of not having that culture, I think.
Yeah.
In video, in indie games, there's some very interesting scenes going on, I think, right now.
Yes.
Where, for example, the Haunted PS1 community.
Yeah.
I find that community so fascinating. There's so many, great creative projects coming out of that, and it's a community where it's very open and very I find it, at least in my interaction with the community, very welcoming to just being open about your development process, your thoughts on games or whatever. I'm not the most active person on Discord and stuff, but they have a Discord server, and it's really nice to just hop around there every now and then and just see what's going on, right? You always see a lot of interesting stuff.
Listen, Miguel, you don't have to tell me I have a Discord server and I'm not active on it.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, I feel a little less guilty about that now.
Yeah, no, I barely pop in.
Yeah, it's super weird. I'm a fairly shy person when it comes to most things. And, and a lot of times it's like, oh, this Discord server exists. That's cool. I would love to get into it. And I get into it and I say hi, and that's it. I never say anything else again.
Right. Yes. No.
But I'm there.
Yeah, I've similarly kind of weird about like I'm giving a talk for what's it? Is it Game Dev Days? Right? Is that I'm asking someone like they know what I'm talking, like they're in it. Yeah, Game Dev Days, and they like come to our Discord. I'm like, hello, and that was it. And then I was like, what am I supposed to do with this thing?
Yeah.
It's all about like I don't know how to frame things. Someone in the chat asked what your Discord is.
Oh, like my user code,
or like your
or...
Discord, like your. Did you say like you ran a Discord?
Oh no,
no, you're talking about the Haunted PS1 run, right?
Yeah, I'm on Haunted PS1. You can find me there. And I'm also on some other Discord. I'm not sure on an Unreal Engine Discord. I never posted anything there, but
no,
I'm also there.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. I'm in like 6 Discords because I posted in them once and I haven't left them.
Sure. Me too.
I post in the itch one once a month to say a new issue is out.
Oh, I didn't even know there was one for each.
But then I leave. I don't even like to see.
It makes sense.
I don't check. It's all I have all the channels muted. And so, like, if somebody's like, "Hey, cool thing," unless they tag me, I never know. But that's just me. I just don't. But also, no one's ever said "cool thing," so I think I checked the first few months I was doing it, and there was never a response. So I was like, yeah, I can pass along. Whatever. Didn't I just try to close the show 20 minutes ago? What am I doing? I'm doing exactly what we said we were doing.
Yeah, sure. Sorry about dragging it out.
No. That's like, listen, like any part of Indiepocalypse, it's like my own discipline that I made up, and there's no one actually making me keep this show under 2 hours. But no one's making me do this thing every month. No one's making me commission a game every month. No one's making me do all this other stuff that I do for it every month, except for myself.
Yeah, except for those, 1,000 little bosses, as we said earlier.
Yes. Oh, I maybe have like 100 little bosses.
Yeah.
It is weird though. I think someone followed me on Itch, and I'm like, they're far more famous than me, but I have more Itch followers than they do. So I don't know how Itch followers translate into anything, or like how you can utilize that if you can at all. I don't know how you talk to them, but anywho.
Well, I do check out my Itch feed every now and then for the people that I follow. I do use that.
Well, I do too. I use it all the time. That's how you find a lot of people. Pretty much any avenue that I can find new games I use. And I have, if you go to my profile and go to my 2 playlists, there's about 4,000 games in there, I think.
Cool.
So if you're interested in playing new games, I've got a bunch of them that are probably all good. How many are in there right now? It doesn't say. I think I have to like try and add something first, and then it'll say like 4,083 games.
There you go.
Wow.
That's a good number.
Yeah. And then I have a secret list that's about 2,500 that I slowly cull as I go through them to like invite people to the zine or commission people to make a new game for the zine, that kind of thing. It's a little peek behind my curtain of the development process. But let's shut it down, folks. Folks, we're shutting it down. Sure. Yona has left a long time ago. I realized I looked at the Zoom call. I was like, "Whoa, they are long gone." So to plug everything, to start with my plug for them, you can go to yonasiana.itch.io. That is, you know what? Wait, I learned this trick from last week, which is you paste it into the Twitch chat. That little trick.
It's nice.
But if you're listening, that's Yona, and as in YONAHSIENNA.itch.io. if there's, I like to feel there's any, like, even the mildest ambiguity, I like to spell a name out fully.
Yeah, that's cool.
So let's go around the circle. And Miguel, what have you got to plug?
Well, I guess you can go to my collectives, each page where my games are. That's yesverymuch.itch.io. I think that's the right link. Let me. Yeah.
Sounds right to
Yes,
me.
very much.
Yes.
.itch.io. Yes, very much is the name of a collective. And then you can follow me on Twitter if you want. I am trying to be more consistent with my posting there. Posting work in progress, like GIFs of what I'm doing now, my current project. That's my Twitter handle is Miguel Rosso G. That's I'll spell it out just in case. MIGUELROSSOG. That's
something.
Those are my plugs.
Perfect. That's something I was like. Something I could never do was roll my letters. It was something like all the way through college. I could.
Oh no! I could only do it because I have my name here on the screen.
Right. Oh, I don't feel as bad then.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's also something I was nervous while I was doing it.
Yeah, it's like
anyway.
Somehow a skill I've never acquired, even though top marks in the class. Still got the language pretty decently. Let's just say if I'm filling out my resume, I put Spanish intermediate. So there's also Amber's long gone, but although she did plug, I will also say fiddlemouth.itch.io. I put it in the chat as well. Ambrosia, what do we got to plug?
So yeah, you can go to ambrosio.itch.io. That's where I have my current stuff. And in about a month or so, I'm gonna be releasing that game I mentioned earlier. It's like a horror adventure game mixed with like a top-down scrolling arcade shooter. Yeah, and it's sitting somewhere in the mature to the adults only rating. So if you go there in like a month when I have it up, or you can follow me on itch, don't blame me if you're like, oh, that was gross or something.
I looked at this at work and it definitely was not safe for there.
Is it the project that you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, it's like the first of I think I planned out it's going to be like an episodic game, and like we were talking earlier that I was trying to transition away from tech, so it has like 2D animation, hand drawn for character art, and it's got like pixel art for like the shooter parts and stuff. Yeah, no, it's a lot of work doing something like that.
Yes, I was making a game. I forgot I was making a game. I should get back to doing that.
Yes,
cool.
Absolutely. You should.
Yeah.
There's also the pressure of me, like, what is a game that I make look like now? Like, it needs to be better than what the stuff I was making pre-Indiepocalypse, because I feel like there's a weird expectation on it now that maybe I just imagined. But anyway.
Yeah, it's fine.
For my part, I don't need to put links in the chat. You know how to go to indiepocalypse.com and purchase Indiepocalypse. It's good issues. 5 and 8, those are good issues. So are 12 and 16, also good issues.
Yeah. To be honest, every issue is pretty good.
They are all very. Listen,
Yeah.
These games, they're all killers. They're so good.
Yeah.
I don't know how, like, that's what, like, whenever I get frustrated, that's truly what frustrates me, is that, like, so many of these games are just so good, and then it feels like there's people who, like, are bemoaning a lack of art, or like, I wish these developers would get the attention they deserve, and I'm like, that's what I'm doing. That pick is literally me, as they say. But
Yeah.
Indiepocalypse.com/Patreon, so you can subscribe, you can get the zine. It's just like a magazine subscription. That's also where you can get physical versions of the zine. I'll mail it to you, and you get a nice physical copy of it. They're cool.
That's super cool.
I have one of my own every month that I print out, and eventually, when there are live events, you could probably just buy them at live events. Submit your games at indiepocalypse.com/submit. Never forget, Indiepocalypse is a weirdo outsider zine, so that's kind of what the stuff I'm looking for by default, even though, folks, there's no other game in town except for, I guess, Haunted PS1 and Dread. I really realized, I'm like, oh, those are like the only other like semi-frequent like periodicals that come out.
Yeah.
And also those are both horror focused. So
It's a specific niche. They're all like very similar types of games too.
Yeah. But
Not that
like,
that's a bad thing.
No. I mean, horror anthologies are a long like respected transition or like tradition. Like in terms of like just like prose and film and television.
Yeah.
There's a long legacy of horror anthologies, and they're all good. It's good stuff. But if you're just looking, if your game is something else, I'm the only game in town, bucko. You got nothing else to work with. Unless you want to just submit your game to jams and see what those do. But if those people are charging you for their jams, they're real fucking snake oil salesmen who are trying to fleece you. I could also offer Indie Lift money if I charged everyone. I could offer $1,000 for every contributor if I charged every submitter $50. It'd be very easy to do that. I'd make a lot of money if people like submitted in with those same expectations, but I just don't like it. I don't believe in it in terms of like, what's the word I'm looking for? It goes against anyway. I forget
principles or something.
Yes, it's my principles. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
On like a print, I don't believe it from like a principle standpoint of charging people for these submissions because it's not big enough that I have overhead that I need to support that. I'm just where I once had debt, I now pay Indiepocalypse, and unlike student loan payments, Indiepocalypse pays me back. So it's like I'm just paying the student loans and car loans I used to be paying, except they pay me back in interest or something. And it's like, wow, that's a great feeling.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a wonderful work that you do every month.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
I'm personally super grateful for the fact that this exists, you know.
It's a thing that I wanted to exist. So
Yeah.
I just made it.
Cool.
But anyhow, I wrote a long Twitter thread about that the other day about how.
Yeah, I read that actually.
Oh yeah, see, yeah, perfect. That was me saying about how I want to exist and how I'm deeply inspired by comics. Comics, folks, it's comic season again. They're getting delivered to my house. I have way too many now. I had none, but I guess like the printing spools are spinning back up, and the boats are all unlodged from the Suez Canal, so the comics are flowing freely. I don't know what I'm going to do with them all, but I think that's all of them. The Indiepocalypse stuff I need to say. I'm gonna get my hands on a PS2 soon. I'm just gonna buy one.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
So I can mail it for the RPG. If you're interested in making RPG games in RPG Maker 2 and you own a PlayStation 2, go to indiepocalypse.com/RPGmaker. Sign up. We only need one more creator.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Miguel, do you know what this project is? Are you familiar with it?
I think so, but did you like is this the project that you've mentioned in other podcasts? That's
Yes,
like
yes.
secret
This is
thing
that Exquisite Corpse.
Yeah.
Or
I
Exquisite Corpse
received I got your mail when you sent that.
Yeah.
By the way, is this still on stream or?
This is still
or
on
did that-
stream. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, I for a moment I wasn't sure. No, yeah, I got the mail, but yeah, as I said, I've had a time
Yes.
where I was like,
People are busy. People go through life.
yeah. And,
People are in
with
Europe.
the burnout and just not feeling too great. I
Yes.
wasn't, answering anything. I wasn't posting anything online. I wasn't
Yeah.
doing anything. But
Nice.
no, yeah, that seems super interesting, and I would. The idea seems great.
But
I'll have to seriously check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, but even if you, but also the problem is being in Europe. Even if you had a PlayStation 2, it'd be a PAL PS2. So probably when you run, right? That's why I want to get one. But
I actually own a PS2.
Yeah.
So,
but unless it's modded, I think if I even sent you the disc, it wouldn't work.
right.
You would need a boot disc and a Magic Swap.
Yeah.
Well, Magic Swap is the boot disc. If it's a Slim,
Okay.
Slims are very easy to modify. I modded my Slim. It's very easy.
Yeah, it's a Slim.
I think you just pop a cap over something and buy a Magic Swap. But anyway, we're in the weeds of this all. Buy the zine, it's good. Got to make money so I can make money. Gonna shut this show down. Thank you both for being here. Thank you again to Yona
Thanks,
and
Andrew.
Amber for being here and ducking out early. I'm amazed that so many people stick around for as long as they do on this show.
Well, thanks a lot. It's
No,
been great.
thank you. I'm going to get my thing ready, go to the final thing. It's that final theme song that everybody knows because I like having a consistent ending theme and opening theme.
Ooh.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.